25, Jesus tells a parable about three different servants who were given a certain amount of talent. And when we think of somebody who's talented today, we say, oh, that person has a gift or an ability, is incredibly talented. But the actual term talent was a term of money. And that's where we get this actual term, oh, he's very talented, from. It was from this story that referred to amount of money that was the money given. It says different amounts of talents were given to three different type of people. One was giving very little, one was given a little bit more, one was given quite a bit. And it says that the one who was given very little took it and buried it. In other words, they took what the master had given them and did nothing with it. And it says the one that was given much talent took it, multiplied it, and put it to work, and the master was incredibly happy because of it. It goes without saying, God gives us different measuring amounts of abilities. I am not a great singer, but I might be gifted in another way. You might be a great singer, but might be poor in production. You might be a great MC. You might have varying amounts of talents, and that's up to the master to determine how much he gives us. What's up to us is to determine what are we going to do with it. Are we going to bury our talent? Are we going to sit on our talent? Are we going to act like it's not a big deal? Because it goes on to say in that story that the one that had the very little talent who buried it, he says, oh, you're a hard master and you don't really treat me right, etc., etc., etc. So I was afraid what you're going to do, so I went and buried it. And a lot of us, when we get gifted with something, or we think we have an ability to do something, we get a little nervous, we get a little stressed out. We think, oh, people aren't going to accept this, they wouldn't like me if I did this. And fear imprisons us instead of going forth and going after what God has for us. It says those that was given much was given even more, and those that were even the little that was given to them was taken away. I want to be right there in the middle of what God is doing with me. I don't want to take my talent, my ability, and bury it. I want to put it to work. How do we do that? Get out and do something with it. Don't let your fear imprison you. Don't let your worries imprison you. Don't let your lack of circumstances imprison you. Get out, put that thing to work, and you'll find that God's going to bless it. Alright, what's up everybody? Today we are talking about kick drums and things like that. So in the last episode I talked about snares. A lot of the same principles apply to your kicks versus your snares. Obviously it's really about matching it with what you got going on melody wise. But I'm definitely one of the guys that usually starts with the drums. I don't always start with the melody, and so a lot of times I will lay down the kick, mainly just because it's just such a part of hip hop. Obviously it's drum driven. I usually tend to go like that. One thing, again, I see a lot of people messing up with is they just grab the first drum kit they have. A lot of times they want low end, and they just start stacking 808 drums. And the problem is, that when you're dealing with that kind of frequency, you just have to understand that it's all about sound, dynamics. It's about the kick you pick. It's just like making a meal. It all starts with the ingredients. And so I'm going to just show you a couple different kicks that I pulled here just to give you an idea of what different ones sound like. So this one is going to be a little more thuddy. You can hear all that extra sound on there. Sounds like it's sampled off a record. It's got a nice little low end sort of round feel to it, but the reality is, again, I might have to filter that to get rid of all that extra noise in there. Because a lot of times if you don't sample a kick that's clean, if you put that in there, it's going to start to get annoying with all the extra sound. This one is tend to be a little more, this is a little more live, but it has a nice little low end part to it. I forgot that I actually filtered that already. Let me give you the original. There we go. Notice the difference. Here's a little more of an 808 type joint. It's got a really nice low end. Obviously, it's great for adding bottom. Here's the same type of low end type kick, but a little more higher frequency. And this one is somewhere just a little bit more of a noise, I guess you could say. It's a noisy type of kick. Doesn't really have a lot of dynamics to it, but it's good if you want to add extra color to your kick drum. So I'm going to keep going off the clap that I had originally, and then I'm going to start showing you how I would build the kick and the snare around the two. So I'm going to add a click track just for my own self. I'm going to do something, start with the low end. Alright, so what we have here is obviously very bassy. So that could almost work just by itself. I'm actually digging that quite a bit. But I'm going to show you how you can add a little more dynamics to it just to give it a little more attack to the kick. Because you have to understand, 808 kicks only work on places that have subs. So if you throw an 808 on something that doesn't have a nice little bottom end to it, i.e. a live sound or a speaker or even in certain headphones, a lot of that frequency is going to get it missed because it just can't pick it up. So a lot of times I like to add sort of a live kick on top of the 808 kick just to give it a little more dynamics and range, so it sounds good on a lot of different stuff. So I'm going to show you what I'm talking about here. Now this might be nice just for something that's really more of just a percussive sound. Okay, so I'm going to mute that for now and probably work with something different. That'll actually work a little better. Now, if you notice, I missed a certain spot there. Whoops. So I messed up. Let me undo the recording on that. Let me switch it down here to this kick. Where am I at here? Okay. Now I think we're ready to keep going. Now to tweak that little extra kick that's in there, I'll probably filter it down a little bit. Now notice just even the sound difference here. It's just with the 808. Just adds a little more, adds just basically a little more bottom to it and rounds it out a bit. And again, a lot of this is fixed in the EQ, a lot of this is fixed in the mix and things like that. But the idea is just capture what's going on in your head, capture it as quick as you can, and start working with it from there. So again, a lot of the principles I use are the same principles I used on the snares. Things like just changing the attack, changing the EQ, filtering, stacking, all these things. There's no one set way to do it. It's just all about listening to it and hearing what you're doing. So one thing we also kind of forget is that make sure you're playing your stuff back on a way that you can hear all the frequencies. If you're working in headphones, sometimes all the frequencies don't come through in headphones, especially depending on what kind of headphones you have. And I encourage you to always listen to your songs on all different kinds of playback stuff, headphones, speakers, cars, etc., because people listen to music in all kinds of different ways. So